to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone to the February 15th City Council meeting. We will go ahead and get started with some announcements. And Cecilia, why don't you do our first announcement?
Last week, the community development team worked alongside third graders at Fishers Elementary School on creating their own Box City. Box City encouraged students to work through the process of creating a city and parallels the Fishers 2040 comprehensive plan efforts currently taking place throughout Fishers. Box City culminated on Friday when students, teachers, and parents were invited to City Hall to celebrate the Box City they created.
Thank you. And we have another announcement. Todd, you want to take that next one for me?
Sir. Connect with city officials while gaining a deeper understanding of how local government operates. The award-winning City Government Academy returns at the end of this month, offering a 10-week exploration of local government. Participation is free for residents 18 and older, and students will hear from staff, tour city facilities, and engage in a collaborative city governing process. Learn more at www.fishers.in.us/CGA.
Thank you, Todd. Brad, you want to go ahead and take the third announcement for us?
Kickstart your spring cleaning and beautification with help from the City of Fishers.
Thank you. Residents are encouraged to work together and submit applications for the Neighborhood Matching Grant or Tree Matching Grant. Additional information about both grants, including details about what grant funds can be put towards, are available online. This is a great thing the City of Fishers does, so I would encourage you, your HOAs and your neighborhoods. There is one rule, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the subdivision has to be 10 years old. Otherwise, you don't qualify for it. But it's a great thing that the City of Fishers does, and please look into it for your neighborhood. Thank you.
And Rich, you want to take that last one for me?
Speaking of spring cleaning, Keep Fishers Beautiful will return on Saturday, April 16th. Individuals or groups interested in helping beautify our community are encouraged to complete a volunteer application online today.
Thank you, Rich. And we will go ahead and move on to presentations. Mr. Mayor, I think you've got a couple of presentations for us.
Thank you, Council President Peterson, council members. It's an honor tonight to talk about the cast of characters I'm about to talk about. We've had some real landmark announcements, or anniversaries, if you will, in terms of employment. But before that, I want to wish a big happy birthday to our beloved Human Resource Director, Cece Hendricks, who's here tonight on her birthday. So happy birthday, Cece. So we often talk about Chief Kale as the longest tenured employee here at the city, but there are a few people knocking on the door right behind him, and we have a few of them here tonight. First off, Kyle Marks. Many of you may not know Kyle, but Kyle's been around for 30 years. And Kyle has worked in several different capacities for the city of Fishers. A Fishers resident for a number of years of his life. I think he's moved out to the country now to get away from the traffic, if I'm not mistaken. But Kyle is currently working in our Public Works Department, handles all of our logistics for our Public Works Department. Prior to that, Kyle was the superintendent of buildings and helped Fishers through that tremendous growth spurt that we had. Kyle is a one-of-a-kind guy, just a really great individual. Was actually working at Conner Prairie before this, believe it or not, as a blacksmith. Was that correct, Kyle? And tonight I want to welcome him and congratulate him on 30 years of dedicated commitment to the city of Fishers. So Kyle, come on up. Thanks, Kyle. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next up, we have two 25-year marks. And these two individuals, there's a great story behind each one of them. First off, I'd like to talk about the man who loves to be on camera, Eric Pethel, our Public Works Director, and loves the attention. Eric's put 25 years in, and actually on his first day of work, came to work and reported to Kyle Marks. So small world. Eric In the 25 years that he's been a part of the city, I can speak to the last 10, and I want to give you some just Cliff Notes versions of accomplishments by Eric in the Public Works Department. In the last 10 years, we have taken on all snow removal for the schools. We've taken on all grounds maintenance for the schools. We've taken on grounds maintenance for the townships. We've taken on grounds maintenance for the libraries. Eric pioneered our snow removal as in general for our city and improved it significantly, where our expectation is to be in everyone's driveways, or not in everyone's driveways, but on their road in the first 48 hours of a snow event, which is unheard of around most places in the state of Indiana. He's a respected leader among the American Public Works Association. In fact, I think this week he heads out there to talk about a couple of our programs to the Board of Directors, the National Board of Directors. Some of the other things that he pioneered is our Hometown Help for Heroes, to reach out to those folks who are deployed on active duty. I can tell you, in my estimation, he has completely transformed and redefined what public works means to the city of Fishers. And his employees are obviously and often the unsung heroes of what goes on a daily basis here in Fishers in terms of the quality of life that our community has enjoyed. So with that, I want to bring Eric up here and recognize him for 25 years of dedicated service, and hopefully maybe not another 25, but at least another 10 or 15. Eric, come on up. Last but not least, and actually he already got his gift, I believe, but is our Assistant Chief, soon-to-be Police Chief Mitch Thompson, who has also been here 25 years. In the time that Mitch has been here, he excelled through the ranks at the police department quickly because of his skill sets and his integrity. Mitch has led right beside Chief Kale for a number of years now in the Assistant Police Chief role, and basically runs the day-to-day operations of the police department from an operational perspective. I think all of his guys know that if there's ever trouble, that they can count on Mitch to be there to help them. He is extraordinarily intelligent and an extraordinary administrator when it comes to dealing with one of the most progressive and professional law enforcement agencies in the state, if not the country. And he's also very well respected among the community. He has a real passion for HSE sports. He's at every single athletic event, I think, that's out there. Well liked in the community, and has a real passion to see Fishers move forward. So with that, please give your gratitude to Mitch Thompson for 25 years of service. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to all those service awards. That's absolutely terrific. We can't do the jobs that we do here in town, and certainly I know you make the mayor look good on a daily basis. So, that being said, let's, before I forget, I also wanted to make sure that certainly as a council we expressed our condolences to Eric and his family for the loss of his father-in-law, and certainly our prayers are with you and your family during this time. So I didn't want to forget that. Moving on to committee.
Pete, one quick thing, if I may. Also would like to send our wishes out to the Belden family. County council member for a lot of years, a legend in Carmel football history, and just an all-around good guy, and hard to see him pass away.
Couldn't echo that anymore, Scott, and thanks for bringing that up since I carelessly missed that. Let's go to our committee reports. John, Finance Committee?
Certainly. We had a Finance and Budget Committee last week and talked about a number of items. Actually, there's a few of those on the consent agenda, three of those. The encumbering city funds and voting outstanding checks. Talk about there's some checks that have been outstanding for a number of months, if not years, that we're going to just void out. The request to ratify the year-end transfers, just a lot of procedural things to keep things moving in our city. Additionally, we talked about, and this is something that will be on the council agenda tonight, is amending the city reserves and liquidity policy to include sewer-related matters. It's something that we're going to do again more for rating purposes and make sure we have the best possible standards and also keep reserves intact for our sewer fund. So it's something that clearly we're trying to be good stewards of our finances here in the city. And we also spent some time as a committee talking about our goals and objectives for 2016, things we're going to talk about as a committee. So we've got a lot in store for us for 2016. We're excited about our performance from a financial perspective and also bringing added transparency. Yes?
The checks we're voting, are those utility refund checks that people never got, or what?
No, they're not.
They're not.
No. They're checks that we've written to vendors that, There's checks that have been written to vendors that were never cashed, and we've tried everything we can to get them to, and we're just voiding them
Oh,
out.
it's 26,000. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
I know,
John.
if it were me, I'd be cashing a check.
Well, it's nice for you to avoid without having to go to the state.
That's right.
Moving on to the election of officers. Last month, we did not elect officers. We didn't really have a full contingent here. I felt it was a little bit disingenuous to do so, but there's been a number of things that have occurred since then, and that I'm sure some of you guys are aware. There was a countywide caucus for a new chairman for the Republican Party of Hamilton County, where, against their better judgment, they elected me. So I am currently the chairman of the Hamilton County Republican Party, and I felt, even though I had support from council to continue in this role as president, that it really was probably better that I step aside, let someone else take that role for the city in terms of looking at what needs to happen for the party on a countywide basis. So with that, knowing that I'm not going to get nominated, I'm going to go ahead and open the floor for nominations for president of the City Council of Fishers.
I'd make a motion for John Weingart for president for 2016.
I have a motion for John, and I have a second. All those in favor for John, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Do I have a motion for vice president?
I'll make a motion to elect David George Vice President of City Council.
Do I have a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There we are. John, podium's yours.
All right. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank Councilman Peterson for his leadership for the last year, and more importantly, his friendship. There's always a story. If you want a friend, sometimes you have to go buy a dog. Fortunately, I've got this gentleman has been my real friend, a two-legged friend, and he's been a great friend, and we've really enjoyed serving.
Dog?
No, I did not call you a dog,
Okay.
But I'm sure you've been called worse. And looking forward to working with David and the rest of the council, and appreciate the confidence that you've instilled in me. Moving on, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Hang on. I'll be abstaining from January 19th.
And I will be abstaining myself as well. Although we have to abstain?
You do. Yeah, if you're not
I
here,
remember-
you need to abstain. Just state on the record that you weren't here, and we'll
Okay.
approve all the other items that
Right.
you weren't
So
on.
I will abstain. I was not there.
I need to
Cecilia was
abstain as
not
well.
there. Very good. Do I have a motion and a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. Moving on to item 7, ordinance 081715D, request to approve a text amendment for the Four Paws Lodge PUD text amendment, second and third reading. Hi, Adam. Welcome.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Adam Zaklakowski, a planner with the Community Development Department. I know that we've got a number of items on the agenda, so we'll try to move through them as quickly as possible. So this item before you tonight, again, is on a second and third reading. This is a text amendment to the Pet Palace Planned Unit Development, or PUD. And this would change the name to Four Paws Lodge PUD, and it would create new development standards for a new pet care and boarding facility, or a kennel, on about a 6.82 acre property on 131st Street. And as you can see on this aerial photo here, the property is just west of I-69 on the south side of 131st Street. The property is currently used for the Pearson Bark Park. That is a membership-only dog park on the property. So in order to move forward with the plans for the new development, the existing Pet Palace PUD would need to be rescinded and replaced with this new PUD to fit the development intent of the new boarding facility. As you can see here, the concept plan in front of you. If you'll recall, you held first reading for this item back on August 17th, 2015. The Plan Commission issued a favorable recommendation at its meeting on January 12th, and it comes before you tonight for a combined second and third reading. Next, you can see the conceptual elevations. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to address those. The applicant's attorney is here as well to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Adam, has the property already transferred owners, or is that sale still pending?
I believe, last I checked the county records, there was a new LLC that took over the property.
Okay.
Beyond that, I would have to defer to the petitioner.
Okay.
Will there also be a Bark Park still there as part of this, or will that part be gone for the public?
No, Mr. Dreama, the park will be gone. And so it would be developed according to this concept plan that you see here. So there will still be an outdoor space for dogs, but it will no longer be a...
So the mayor needs to start working on a new Bark Park?
Yeah. To be clear, that's not our bark park today.
It's a membership only.
That's a private sector.
Yeah.
Get my pooper scooper out, Brad.
Any questions for Adam?
Yeah, real quick. I don't want to go too deep into this, and maybe Peter Rich, you can kind of talk about the discussion through the Plan Commission, but it's more architecture. I think it looks great, but it's a CMU, so it's like a split-face block as opposed to, brick and things like that. Was there any discussion on that type of look versus some of the others we've had come through?
I don't remember all the materials. I would tell you that I know we talked about the design, and I think we were all very impressed with it, honestly, for the facility and the type that it is. And I think part of what we did discuss at the Planning Commission was, in fact, there being a concern about it being visible because it was so nice looking, and there being a concern about what screening was going to be around it, and that it at least allowed for that to be visible. Maybe the petitioner can comment to the materials.
And David, I was not last planning commission,
Okay.
so I didn't
I
get to
apologize.
weigh in on this, so.
Does the petitioner here tonight have any comments?
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the City Council. For the record, my name is Steve Harden. I'm a partner in the law firm of Faegre Baker Daniels. Pleased to be representing Four Paws Lodge. Congratulations on your presidency and your retirement from that role. The couple of the answers. One, yes, the Four Paws Lodge has acquired title, so that did happen. And the answer on the materials, as we walk through there, they're set in the PUD ordinance, but just what you're showing up here, based from the architects, we've got a variety of elements of the wood type element here, stone through this area, and I think, Dave, you were talking about the CMU that's along the lower part of the bands, and that's where those different openings will be for the doors, but that has that component. Then the rest of it is more of a hardy plank, stone, and then a really nice metal roof for it. So I think everybody was really excited about that. There was a question at the Plan Commission about the height of the fence that was proposed, the decorative fence along the path. So you might have noticed in your materials some measurements, and without a whole lot of explanation, but one of the Plan Commission members, it's actually Councilwoman Stoller, who's not here tonight, but we put the information in there. She'd asked about the height of the building, and both the C2 and the residential districts will have a maximum height of 35 feet, and that's measured at the midpoint, and this building is well below that. So it's smaller, or would fit in a residential size district as well. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any other questions. Otherwise, we appreciate your consideration.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any questions for the petitioner?
Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment. Any public comment on this particular issue? Okay. Therefore, at this point,
I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules and approve on third reading.
got a motion by Pete, second by Eric. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Do I have a motion approved?
So moved.
Motion by Pete. Do I have a second? Second by Eric. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Little change in, just good thinking ahead. I think we have a number of people here in the audience this evening for a couple items. I was wondering if we could go ahead and let these folks maybe start a little early with them and let them go home. And again, hopefully we can do this. Maybe items 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Can we move them up now? I was just thinking, how many people are here for Braden? How many people are here for Republic? Raise your hands. Okay. I just figured we'd just and the press is here. We get everybody home and go watch The Bachelor or whatever the heck you're going to watch.
It's Grammy night.
Yeah. Also, is item 13, item 14, are they off the agenda for tonight?
They were pulled this morning by the petitioner, but we can let the planning and zoning staff come up and talk about those after these as well.
Okay. So we're going to move forward and start with item 16 and move down through item 20. If you don't mind, we can get this done. And
21 is also included as part of that, so you're going to do 16 through 21.
Hope you folks don't mind, but just trying to get people moving and keep things rolling. Thank you. Brandon?
Thank you, Mr. President, City Council members. Now will be the fun part where I figure out how to... This was the part I was hoping to figure out while I had time. You moved the schedule up on me to jump over to
I apologize,
the
but
presentation here. There we go. Mr. President and council members, I'd request the council to allow me to present both the Stanley Security and Braden System projects collectively within this PowerPoint presentation, and then vote for each project's EDA, ERA, and SB1 and Blanc as far as those two projects go afterwards, so we don't have to have people playing musical chairs coming up, coming down. I'd request that respectfully.
Absolutely. We'll do our best.
Then we'll go ahead and get started. The first project here that we have is the Stanley Security rendering. And Stanley Security is a company that's currently headquartered in Fishers at Cross Point Boulevard. It is not headquartered at Binford Boulevard, as some media reports may have incorrectly ascertained, but there's currently 165 retained jobs at the Stanley location. And in an effort to keep Stanley here in the city of Fishers and provide them a campus and consolidated location, the city entered into negotiations with Stanley and present those details and facts to you here today. Stanley Security Division is an 80,000 square foot facility of Class A office space with 320 new and retained jobs. The 165 retained, again, are from the Cross Point location here in Fishers. The 155 new jobs will be consolidated from across the state and potentially out of the state as well. None of the 155, Jim, can I go ahead and confirm that none of those would be coming from Binford?
That's correct.
Okay. So for the record, none of the 155 jobs include the Binford Boulevard location, which is actually the manufacturing location. This is the electronic security division that we're dealing with here, and that's what's currently located in Fishers. The annual average wage of these 320 jobs is approximately $62,000. We're optimistic that that number with time will actually climb, but as of right now, based on the SB1s, those are still very healthy jobs, and we're excited to have them here in Fishers. I noted that this pedestrian-friendly streetscape, that was something that Stanley had mentioned was very important to them as far as what they were looking for in a community, and Fishers bringing a lot of focus on connectivity, trail expansion, especially the trails there in the Delaware Park location, to give their employees amenities and to be able to get up to downtown here at City Hall and across the city were very important. So those efforts have been paying off and helping us draw and attract and keep companies. We've done a general aerial of the location we're talking about here. So as you can see, it's 69, and this would be just east of that, a little bit halfway between 96th and 106th. The building just to the left of the highlighted area is the Roche Lexington building, and the area just south of that is the Sun King location for the brewery. So this is the Delaware Park area that we're talking about. Here's a drilled down project site plan that shows again kind of what these guys are planning on doing. The code name for this was Project Bumblebee, so that's why that is on there, but you'll notice they have building expansion locations, so it is Stanley and our intent that as they continue to grow, we're hopeful that they'll be able to expand on this campus and provide additional employment opportunities for future employees as well. And here's some of the streetscape renderings of what they're trying to do in the area. Again, a very connected, very pedestrian-friendly, employee-friendly park. As far as project timeline goes, today we'll consider the approval of the EDA and the declaratory ERA, and also we'll have one item to be taken care of in March, which would be the confirmatory ERA. And then as far as the construction timeline goes, we're pretty bullish on this project. We anticipate seeing some plans here pretty shortly, and spring 16 construction with a spring 17 rough estimate construction completion. As far as the public-private partnership goes, the project basics, Ambrose, who's actually the developer, will build a $16 million Stanley Security Divisional Headquarters. The personal property investment by Stanley is a little bit north of $2 million. None of that will be abated. It's fully taxed at 100%. And the city will have an estimated $150,000 tax revenue over the 10 years of the project cycle. Again, 165 jobs remain in Fishers, 155 new jobs to Fishers. That provides a roughly $20 million annual payroll, and over 10 years, $200 million, providing income revenue directly to Fishers over the 10 years at an estimated total of just under $300,000. In part, the city would waive development impact fees and abate real property taxes at 100% through years 1 through 8, and then slide down to 75% in years 9 and 10. The total value of that abatement over the lifespan would be $1.8 million. The value of the waivers would be $328 roughly, and the revenue from the property tax in years 9 and 10, when it slides down to 75%, comes in just under $100,000. This was very important to Stanley to be able to get them convinced, the Connecticut global headquarters, that this was the right place to be for their future growth in this area, helping put together an abatement schedule that met their ROI that they needed to turn back and return on within 6 years. So we worked with Jay and worked with Jim to make sure we were competitive and to make sure those jobs stayed here in Fishers, and allowed us the opportunity to bring additional jobs, good paying jobs to Fishers, and have this be a divisional headquarters for Stanley Security that we're proud to have them here. So those are the general basics of the Stanley project. Are there any questions for Stanley specifically that I could answer?
Any questions for Brandon or comments?
Brandon, if I can make a suggestion, perhaps you should consider a vote on Stanley, and then we can look pairing the Braden deal next.
Two blocks.
Yeah.
Any questions for Brandon?
And no, Brandon, I love the nickname, Project Bumblebee. It has nothing to do with the yellow and black, Stanley Securities, did it?
No, and that was Megan Baumgartner's idea. One of the can't take credit for it.
I want to compliment the mayor and the staff again for continuing the vision that we have here in Fishers, and a collaborative effort to work with partners that bring good economic development ideas to the city of Fishers. And again, this has been a 5-year process that we've been undertaking, and we've been probably taking it from a fire hose to some degree, I think, a little bit, and it hasn't slowed down. And we are the envy, of the state of Indiana right now. And that's evidenced by, you can go online and you can pick up IBJ, you can pick up the Indy Star, you can pick up Indiana Business. All these people are talking about Fishers in a very, very positive light. And I can't speak more highly about the staff and certainly everybody else working to all ends to continue to bring these type of developments to our city. Because again, in the long run, who ends up benefiting? The employer ends up benefiting, and so do the citizens of Fishers. So again, from my standpoint, they have my full support.
Other questions or comments for Brandon?
Yeah, real quick, I had I guess there are different types of questions, but I think they're pertinent. And Mayor, I just wanted to make sure, and I think I know the answer to this, but none of this requires a rezone?
Not to my knowledge, there's no requirement for a rezone. Kevin's looked at it, and there's no requirement for a rezone.
Okay. Then we can go through that if something else comes up in the future. And then the road is still private through there, the main road, the main spine road?
I wish
or is that
Jeff was
city?
here. I don't think that is.
We can get confirmation of that for you either later tonight or first thing
Steve, do
tomorrow
you
morning.
recall? I don't believe it's private. I think that's public. You're thinking of north of 106th Street, it's private. When you get into Kincaid, then it's public.
It is public here?
It is a
Okay.
public road.
Okay. I just, because as we start to add, we're going to add more car traffic, so we either need to keep it on our books, or we need to work with the developer, just more as a heads up. Thanks.
Well, certainly I can echo Pete's comments. We're really excited about this opportunity. Welcome to Fishers. Certainly look forward to you being a part of our community. Is there any other questions?
John, just for clarification, we're going to be doing items 19, 20, and 21.
That is correct.
And I'm going to make a motion on R19, R021516F.
G and H? Are we doing?
Can we do
them all together or do them one at a time?
Do them separately, but we'll start
right.
going down the
I
line.
make a motion to approve item 19, R021516F.
Second.
Motion by Pete, second by Cecilia. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Need a motion, I'll take a
Make a motion to approve R021516G.
motion by Pete, second by Eric. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Item 21, please.
Request to approve R021516H.
Motion by Pete, second by Todd. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Thank you very much, Council. And with that, I'd just like to recognize Jim Cannon and Jay. Jim is the CEO here of STANLEY Security, and he's a Texas guy, but he's fallen in love with Fishers, which that's a real feather in a hat to this community to be able to convert Jim into a Hoosier, and we're proud to have you and glad to see the great things that you're doing, and thank you again for your partnership, and Jay for helping us make sure we got all the dots connected and the T's crossed on this one.
Thank you all so much for your growth business.
Welcome.
Terrific.
Welcome to Fishers. Thank you, Brandon. Now we'll get on to items 16, 17, and 18 on the agenda. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So the next project is Braden Business Systems. This project also is one that we're very excited about, and it brings just based on the picture, the rendering, you can see it's going to bring a sense of vitality and connectivity to what is currently a parking lot just south of the Court IT building, and I believe is currently installing piping for the switch development. So this area is not something that's really been on anyone's development radars. We did put out a notice to see if there was any interest in the location back in November. No responses whatsoever were submitted based on that. And so then we began talking with Braden Systems to maybe bring about a corporate headquarters again. We're focusing on a tremendous amount of growth in the corporate headquarter industry, looking to grow more of those here in the upcoming years. The Braden Business System project is it's still a little bit fluid. They're deciding between a 35 to 43,000 square foot building. That'd be Class A office space. Again, we noticed with them, they echoed Jim and Stanley's comments about having a location that provides an engaged sidewalk and a sense of community that they could really kind of plug into and be a part of it and add to the vibrancy. And so with this location and the plans that we have for the Maple Street Village and the downtown core, they were very excited about the possibility of building their corporate headquarters here. So I mention that again to thank you for your vision in providing the type of streets, the type of city, and the type of sidewalks that help us attract corporate partners and corporate citizens. This project would provide 163 new jobs to Fishers. Braden is currently located in Marion County. They have 43 jobs currently, and so just as an aside, when we talked to them initially, they had 43 on staff. And so that's kind of the baseline that you'll see in the IEDC work and the IEDC documents as well as our SB1s. However, they went ahead and started hiring people before we got this agreement signed, which is fine by us. So as of right now, I think they have north of 70, and I think, Eric, you said you hired 4 more. So I've given up trying to keep track of how many they have, but they're growing leaps and bounds right now. But for this purpose, we're going to stick to the 43 baseline that the SB1 calls out to keep in conformity and to keep confusion down. But they are dedicated to bringing in 120 additional jobs by 2020 as part of their agreement with the IEDC. So they've gotten a pretty good jump on that number already. And again, these are well-paying jobs. I don't know that we have different numbers for the ones they've recently hired, but the 43 jobs based on the SB1 have a annual payroll of, I believe, $2.4 million annually. And so that would bring us to $24 million over 10 years. And the average annual wage there is roughly 57, but we're also optimistic that that number is going to grow as the company brings on more software, IT solution companies and employees, which is what they're focusing on in their future growth business model. Again, here's a aerial of the location. As you can see, it's just off of North Street, up against the railroad and south of the IT, right also up against Municipal Drive. And this is a night rendering, and normally we wouldn't really ask for a night rendering for a corporate office space, but this was something that we thought actually told, again, what vision that planning, the mayor, and the council have had, that part of the reason that Braden wanted to locate here was to provide more vibrancy in the downtown area because there's so much young talent here that they're, I think they said, kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. They want to be where the talent is, and they want to help attract even more young talent into the area. And that's what one of the major battlefields is in economic development, is fighting for the talent and the companies that the new talent wants to go to. So the Bradens have provided a pretty exciting, intelligent design here that creates sidewalk engagement, vibrancy, and even again in the rendering there's a lot of motion. And just off to the left there's the amphitheater, and that was one of the other main reasons they said they really wanted to be here. They come to the amphitheater after dark constantly and are excited to host clients and prospective clients up there on their 4th story balcony to watch Rick Springfield and Eddie Money and all the other great shows that we bring into town. So again, I think that
Scott's
just
never heard of. Okay.
That was Huey Lewis.
We're working on him, and the news, not just Huey. So again, this is something that we think is very indicative of the type of companies, the type of talent that we want to attract and continue to attract. So we're very excited about this project. So again, some just general project timelines. Again, today we'll consider the approval of the EDA, the declaratory ERA, as well as the SB1s. And then in March, we'll do a confirmatory ERA, and there'll be a transfer of the property. Currently, the parcel that this sits on is going through platting to actually be carved out as a separate address. So that'll be going to Plan Commission later this month, Kevin? Next month. So once we have that lined up, we'll have council transfer property to the RDC, and then the RDC would then transfer along to the Braden Business Systems Group. And then the RDC again would, in March, accept the land transfer. And part of this deal is also an office lease, which I'll get into here in a moment. And then there's also a parking approval from Town Hall Building Corp., which operates the garage. A construction timeline very similar to Stanley. Again, plans are already starting to be put together, so we anticipate local and state permitting happening, here in the next 30 days or so, with a spring 17 construction completion. So we'll be getting started here in a couple months this spring. And then the project basics for this one, it's a little bit more involved, so bear with me. But the EDA requires a minimum $6.5 million infrastructure construction investment for the global headquarters pursuant to the plans approved by the city. Again, by doing the project the way that we've structured it here, we have a little bit more say in the design, the feel, the use, et cetera. So that helps the city provide the best projects at the best value for our citizens. The personal property investment by the Bradens is about $1 million. It's mainly IT infrastructure. Again, the 43 new jobs and the 120 new growth jobs by 2020. The revenue for the income tax off of this is $36,600 over 10 years. That's just the 43 jobs, so that number's already higher today based on the 70 plus that they have, but just for demonstrative purposes, we'll be seeing that come back to Fishers and income tax. One of the city's aspects of the project would be a waiver of development impact fees. Those are estimated at $230,000. That's assuming the 35,000 square foot build. If the building gets larger, there might be those might be slightly higher, but not substantially. And then we'll walk through the abatement schedule, which again is part of the more intricate aspect of the deal. The land transfer of roughly half an acre is valued at $308,000, so that would be part of the city's obligations. And then there's also an office lease for 15,000 square feet that the RDC would consider and take on. So to go to the abatement schedules, the building here is just the corporate headquarters. They also have a warehouse, and the warehouse is in limbo. They have three options. Each of them have different abatement schedules associated with it. If they build a new warehouse facility in Fishers, the city would abate real and personal property taxes at that current schedule, which is real property 100% in years 1 through 2, 90 in years 3, 80% 4 through 5, and then 70% in year 6 for roughly $726,000 value. The personal property would be abated at 100% over 5 years, roughly at 43. So the total in that scenario would be $769,000 roughly. Out of that, the city would earn back $111,000 roughly in real property and personal property tax revenues over those 6 years. So as they come off the 100% number, that money would be coming directly back to the city. If Braden decides to lease or purchase an already existing warehouse in Fishers, the abatement schedule changes slightly. In this situation, there is only a years 1 through 5 schedule, and it remains at the same 100 in years 1 through 2, 90 in 3, 80 in years 4 and 5. There is no abatement in year 6. So it is a 5-year deal at that point. And so that value is $629,000. The same real or the same personal property schedule though would hold in this scenario. So there's a slightly lower level, and again $69,800 in estimated real and personal property tax revenue over 5 years. If for whatever reasons the Bradens are unable to find a warehouse facility that meets their needs in Fishers, the aspect of this, again, the same years 1 through 5 schedule, $629,000. However, there would be no real property abatement in this scenario. So the total comes down to $650,000, and then there would be an estimated $91,300 in real and personal property tax revenue over 5 years in this scenario. One other aspect I wanted to clarify, the council is looking at an SB1 tonight. Technically, these are all required when you have a project within a TIP district. This location is actually not in a TIP district today, but in the interest of transparency, if this project is approved in a couple of months, the city would move that parcel into the allocation area. So we thought it would be best to be forthcoming about that now versus coming back in a few months and reminding you, oh, hey, we want to do this. So as of right now, it's a parking lot, which is why there's no value in putting it in the allocation area. So that's why you have that form in front of you, although the parcel is not in a TIP district as of today. And I believe that is the gist of that project, so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments for Brandon? No? And again, to apologize last time, I want to make sure any comments from the public want to come forward. Don't have to do that, but figure we would.
Good evening, Council. Michael Colby, 7105, excuse me, Coal Lake Drive. I had a question on the last one, and it's the same for this one. Where are the clawbacks? Do you have any clawbacks in any of these deals? Is that, I didn't hear any of that tonight, so I'd just kind of like to hear where we have, we got a company down in called Carrier, I think it is, it's leaving the state, and that's a real problem. So that's my question.
Great question, Mike, and we can touch on that. There are consistent clawbacks in both of these items pursuant to the SB1. And Brandon, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Colby. It's a very salient point given the circumstance of the last week or so. Yes, there are clawbacks in the EDA for both projects, one being if they do not meet, for instance, for the Braden project, if they do not provide a $6.5 million investment, then the abatements go away. If they do not proceed on time for commencement, if they do not obtain appropriate permits and approvals from city and state, their waiver fees can be reinstated and made due instantly on them. And then the jobs number 43, they've already met that, so we're not too concerned about that one, but again, the SB ones would be the baseline for those incentives, and the same is true for Stanley as far as that project goes. And there's, again, are the job commitments and the investment of the construction as well.
Thanks, Brandon, and thanks, Scott, for bringing that up. I think that, and Mike, certainly for asking the question, because Mike was actually on council when we got into a number of these economic development agreements, which were kind of handed over to us as we came off in time, and we found out that maybe some of those clawbacks were either non-existent or pretty loose and we couldn't do much with. So it's been very standard course since Mike was on council and we ran into that issue to make sure that these clawback arrangements are in place to make sure that not only the development group who's coming into the city saying they're going to do things, it actually carries through to does those things for us to give them these incentives to come here, right? And that's really what comes through the collaborative effort of working with these developers that we've had coming into the city so far. Because every one of them haven't balked at all at the clawbacks as we continue to work to the end of trying to build the city that we want, and to make sure that everybody has a piece in play here, and everybody agrees that we all need to move forward, with these ideas and investments that are going there. And without that, then we don't really become who we want to become. But again, I also want to thank Dave and his son. Number one, for bringing your son back to New York City, for crying out loud. Okay, all this brain drain we keep talking about, I'm glad we're able to pull some out of New York City after that, and also bringing the business in here to Fishers. It's terrific to have you.
Yeah, and to clarify with Stanley, it's a job commitment is their kind of pivotal point. So if the job commitments could not be met on Stanley, there would be a abatement hearing if the city determined that they could not comply with the terms of the agreement. So we would come back to the council to have a hearing on that. So there's definitely avenues for the appropriate due deliberance of a hardship from the company, and at the same time meeting the requirements that the city requires in both of these deals.
Rich?
I just wanted to mention for the public's benefit, I've mentioned this to council, but Dave Braden's been a long-time friend, and I couldn't be more excited that they're deciding to locate their corporate headquarters here. But I've been very actively involved, and in no way am I, and I think most people may know that I'm in real estate, but I'm not earning any fee or benefiting from this transaction yet. I think just for the benefit, I am going to abstain. But I couldn't be more excited, as I say, because I think that they're bringing their company and the type of employees into our downtown is exactly the kind of vibrancy that we want to see. So I'm excited.
And certainly, David, I'm certainly excited to have you part of the community, but I also want to personally thank Rich for your involvement and your time and your talents to help bring this deal to the table. It's exceptional you have those skills and you can bring and help our community grow and bring a great corporate client like this to our community. So thank you, and certainly, gentlemen, welcome to Fishers, not only just residentially, but also on a business level. So welcome.
There's
Other
no other
questions?
comments. I'm going to make a motion to approve R021516C.
Motion by Pete, do I have a second? Second by Todd. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you. Need a motion, item 17, please.
Motion to approve 021516D.
Motion by Pete, second by Todd. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. One abstention.
Motion to approve item 18, 021516E.
Motion by Pete, do I have a second? Second by Eric. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And one abstention.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And again, Eric and Dave are here, so...
Would you like to come up and, please come up and say hello to our community?
Thanks a lot, Brandon. City Council, Mayor, Brandon, Megan, not Town Council anymore, City Council. This is the big leagues, guys, and I'm excited to be back home. Really excited to move our corporate headquarters to where I grew up, Fishers, Indiana. Used to all be cornfields around here. Now we've got real things going on, so I'm just so blessed to be a part of it, and I look forward to it.
I thought I was going to slow down a little bit, but since he came home, nope. But we've always been very excited to be part of the community, and being part of the downtown Fishers and the vibrancy and what you're trying to do. We couldn't be more excited. We just appreciate, and we'll do a really good job and make sure that product everyone will be proud of. So thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Especially Rich.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Rich.
Welcome.
Thank you,
Okay, where are we at now?
Okay, now moving back to item 8 on the agenda.
Okay, there we go.
Ordinance 122115A, request to approve a text amendment to the Britton Falls Plan Unit Development. Good evening, Kevin. How are you?
Good evening. Okay, for the record, my name is Kevin Stutz. I'm a planner in the Department of Community Development. I'm here tonight to present Pulte Homes of Indiana's request for second and third reading on their proposed text amendment to the Britton Falls Plan Unit Development. Britton Falls is located in the northeastern portion of Fishers, just on the west side of Cynthiana Road, south of 136th Street, represented by the red dot on the map here. The Britton Falls PUD actually covers quite a bit of land and several communities, as outlined in red here on this map. However, the text amendment tonight is site-specific to the Hunters Run community, as referenced as 1A and 1B in the Britton Falls PUD ordinance. The text amendment in front of you tonight would modify the restrictions for the maximum width of a front-loading garage. There is a requirement in the standard within the PUD which states the width of a front-loaded garage shall not exceed more than 50% of the width of the front elevation of the home. The proposal tonight would be to change the language to state the front-loaded garage to the garage door itself would be counted in that percentage. As we worked through first reading on December 21st, there were some steps that staff wanted to take before we moved into the Plan Commission phase. And the first one was to review the architectural feature point system, to clarify any unclear points and edit language when it was necessary, and then also to remove points that could be considered standard by today's residential development standards. With any PUD, there will be a set of architectural points which a builder can earn from that list. If a home has, for example, less than 50% masonry product on the front elevation, then they would be required to have 6 architectural points. If they have 50% or more masonry material on the front elevation, then they would be required to have 8 points. The City Council requested that we take a look at that list and see if there's any updated dates that needed to be happen as we work through this text amendment. So as we've worked through first reading and the Plan Commission process, we've come up with these changes to the Hunters Run PUD text amendment. The first one that Pulte has agreed to and incorporate into their PUD is to require decorative garage doors for all of the homes in Hunters Run. And this item was actually removed from the architectural point system. I was asked to provide an example of what the decorative garage door standard would be in this instance, and I'd like to pass this out. As that's being passed out, I'll just explain a little bit the exhibit here, which was provided by Pulte Homes. On the first page, you'll see that the garage doors in front of you have incorporated windows on those first three examples to the garage door. On the second page, there's been an addition of the windows, and also you'll see some bracket detailing. And then on the third page in the last set, you'll see windows, the bracket detailing, and then some raised trim work. So that is what Pulte Homes would like to consider decorative garage doors for the purpose of this first item. The second addition we made to the proposed text amendment would be to remove vinyl siding as a permitted building material. We also wanted to clarify the following 4 points in the PUD. The point would be received for a masonry accent area across 100% of the front facade length, and that would also exclude any openings or areas behind a porch which has decorative masonry columns. So that last sentence was added to clarify when a point would be received there. 2 or more masonry materials or 2 or more siding materials would also qualify for a point for front elevations. We wanted to clarify that architectural enhanced and articulated trim moldings on 50% or more of the windows along the front elevation would be a point. In this particular item, we added the 50% or more for the windows in order to count. We also wanted to clarify, and we recommended that any transom windows or architectural treatment on the gable ends or reverse gables would need to happen on the front elevation to qualify as a point. And if those additions were on the side elevation, then that would not qualify as a point. So again, staff considered these to be cleanup items from that PUD. Pulte agreed to those, and then they also agreed to remove cement or fiberboard siding materials from the point system. As we worked through the Plan Commission, meeting was held on January, excuse me here. The Plan Commission meeting in January, the general consensus was the 2-story homes which were provided in the petitioner's packet under tab 6, they felt that the homes being presented there were acceptable. What we were asked to do, though, and Pulte agreed to, is to work with staff on the 1-story homes or the ranch elevations. At that meeting, it was suggested that we perhaps include a separate architectural point system to cover the 1-story homes. As we started to work through that with Pulte Homes, we realized that that could be a daunting task, so instead we took a different path and decided to look at all of the 1-story homes which they would like to offer in Hunters Run and scale that back to what staff would recommend for approval, and we would like to incorporate that into the actual PUD tonight. So if you were to reference tab 7 in the petitioner's packet, you will see 11 1-story homes which have been reviewed by staff, and we would recommend approving to be built within the Hunters Run community. If there is an elevation in there in which City Council would like to talk about further or perhaps even remove, we would be open to answering those questions or comments. So with the changes that Pulte Homes has made as we work through this text amendment, staff would be supportive of the request in front of you tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on the text amendment, and from there I'll turn it over to Steve Harden, who is representing Pulte Homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the City Council. My name is Steve Harden, a partner at the law firm of Fagery Baker Daniels, and pleased to be representing Pulte Homes in this proposal tonight. First off, I want to thank Kevin Stotts for his work with Ashley Bedell and Dave Compton. They definitely did exactly what he said. At first reading, I think you might recall the direction I think we had, that most people, I think, viewed this proposed amendment for what it was, which it made sense, and it was going to be seemed like a pretty good proposal. But there was direction given to look at the rest of the ordinance and see if it, since it had been some time ago since it was first approved, could the city work with the developer and try to tighten up those standards. And in fact, that's what happened as we've gone through the process. And want to thank Kevin particularly for spending a lot of time working through it, and really don't have anything else to add to that, other than I think we did accomplish what the Plan Commission was looking for them to do, as well as the direction from the City Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for the petitioner or Kevin, staff? Do I have any public comment?
I did have you.
Go right ahead, Rich.
I guess I wanted to clarify a couple things. And I don't believe that the detail of the one story was provided at the Planning Commission, but this has been since the meeting. And I know David had asked about what Warren's concerns were, and I think that generally there was just concerns about what that elevation looked like on the one story, and I think it was acknowledged by the petitioner that even they didn't look that good. But I guess a couple clarifications related to that, because as I understand it, within the exhibit, all the plans that are being shown here are being requested to be approved with this, correct? And there is a bit of inconsistency because there's decorative garages that are going to be required and masonry on the front. So I know at least some of these elevations don't have that. Would then the commitments override what's shown here? And really, I think in fairness, I mean, I do think that even Warren may want to see these because I know he had raised that as a concern. There are a couple of them, quite frankly, that I'm not that attracted to, but I think we certainly talked about it, and I acknowledge that was the biggest concern that we had, part of the comp plan work, and just trying to maintain as much quality and visual from that streetscape of the homes that you're going to be seeing. So if someone could clarify that first point.
I would just like to clarify that under tab 7, when you're seeing the one-story homes, each of these homes actually do still comply with the point system that's within the Britton Falls PUD. So I can clarify that they have the required architectural points. Okay. And then in addition to that, we want to actually show you, and yes, these will be approved tonight as homes, one-story homes, which can be built in Hunter's Run.
Again, the two questions of architectural decorative garages, will they be added to these elevations? And then the masonry requirement as well?
Yeah, the decorative garage will still be required as shown in the exhibit I just passed out. Those will be some of the decorative garage doors permitted.
Okay. So Rich, like your question, the Amberwood, for instance, are you saying versus the Bennett? Is that the differential that maybe is called into question that Warren had some issues
Correct.
with? It might make sure I understand.
Well, I don't know that he had the opportunity to review these particular ones. There were some other samples that were provided, but I know that he had concern about that.
Well, because I did note in this to make sure that, because I read from your minutes, I wanted to make sure that was followed up on as well. So I had that in my notes as well, to look and see, is this consistent? Is this what we're approving? So
the way I look at it, it's more the words. You approve the words, and then anytime you have an exhibit, the exhibit is similar to. So if there's a discrepancy, I believe, I'll look at Chris, it would be the words that are embedded.
Could we provide a little more language where it says decorative garages to include language that would show, windows and hardware and that kind of thing? Because decorative, I could say it's decorative and someone else might think it's not decorative. So in order to elaborate a little bit more of what that exactly means.
Sure, a couple things just to clarify. Absolutely, Pulte agrees that the decorative garage door requirement applies to all of these. And so these were plans that were there. Some of them had decorative garage doors, some didn't, but they all will have decorative garage doors, which is what's in the ordinance. We did talk with staff about, do we try to wordsmith what a decorative garage door is, or do we simply say decorative garage doors are required, provide them illustrative what Pulte intends to do, which is what I think the exhibit that was handed out to you, and the decision was let's not try to, it's almost a never-ending task to try to actually articulate it, but we gave, thank you. And did everyone get one of these? Okay, so everyone saw these. So this is, one option was to incorporate this as an exhibit that would say these are illustrative of what we mean by decorative garage doors. But what we see happen so often is there may be something else that comes up that's not on there, and we didn't want to have to come back to the city council to get amendments for here's a new kind of decorative garage door that the staff liked and thought it was good to do that. So I think everybody's intent is this is what these are going to be. So if there's something different, then the staff is going to have to sign off on that. So
that is a supplement to this amberwood. In terms of what this is showing is that this is not a decorative door, from my understanding.
Which one are you?
If you look at amberwood,
yeah,
or Riverton,
that's correct.
I just want to make sure that's not the definition of decorative.
And again, it's not a definition, but you're exactly right that this is what is the understanding between staff and Pulte, that when they talk about a decorative garage door, these are 9 examples of what decorative garage doors mean to everybody. And I think the staff and Pulte are good with that. We just didn't want to try to overwrite the ordinance so that there's some flexibility in the future.
And Steve, for clarification, then everything that you just mentioned was a part of the text amendment that the Plan Commission approved and is sending to the council now for their approval?
Yeah, the requirement for the decorative garage door is this is not part of the PUD ordinance. This is just to give illustration to everybody about what it means. But yes, thank you. The only thing that's new was that they gave us the direction to work with staff to come up to address the one-story homes, and that's what you saw in your PUD ordinance.
If I may maybe just comment to one other thing, and Pete, I think you were here. Maybe you weren't for this Planning Commission meeting, but one of the things that came out from this that I think was very helpful was, and I think staff had started this revision of the point system that is used to evaluate homes and what they can build. And, I think, unfortunately, it sounds like you just weren't able to get all the way through that. But what started was that they were looking to really refine that and classify by category. For instance, you had to have a certain number of points in garages, and I'm probably oversimplifying it, but it's within different categories, you have to obtain certain minimums. And so I think my understanding is that staff is continuing to work to refine this, and I'm not sure on what schedule we're on, but I really think it's a model that can be adapted to other residential projects going forward. Maybe, Scott, you can speak to that.
I think Leah McGrath and her team, and to Pulte's credit, they sat down and spent a lot of time talking through how we can get a better product. And we're learning our own process and how to improve it. But at its core, what Rich is referring to is a point system where literally a home could decide to put all those points into 1 or 2 architectural features, and then the rest of your home might be vinyl or something to that effect, in the most dramatic illustration of that. What we're moving towards is compartmentalizing the point system, where you can only get so many points from this section of architecture, and then there might be more points from this, so you get a more well-rounded home and more features, rather than maybe, well, it has a porch, therefore it got a ton of points on that, but then left the rest of the home less than desirable. So we did make a lot of progress, and we did learn a lot from this particular process, and we will continue to improve when we marry it with our ultimate vision on the 2040 Comprehensive Plan. I think there's a lot of opportunities to get a better end result.
Again, I think, kind of tagline on what Scott said, because my understanding of this is this all basically came from the fact that we had kind of a difference of opinion over what it said over, width of garage doors versus the whole deal. That's where this thing started, right? So really what ended up happening is it really put the staff in motion to say, well, is that true or is it not true? But okay, if it's true, then we want this too. So we're able to adapt it and make a lot better product in the end than what we had to start with, even if we would have made the garage door the width that I think staff really thought it should be, right? So I think this whole exercise, again, is moving us in the right direction. And I applaud that. And I wasn't at Planning Commission, by the way. Because I think about that, and Todd, don't get so hung up on the pictures. Okay, really, because the pictures are kind of representative, but they're not showing a decorative garage door. I also appreciate what Mr. Harden is saying, like, if we only put down 9 garage doors that are acceptable, okay, then we just put handcuffs on those guys over there that if they're not one of those 9 garage doors, they've got to come back here and say, can we use this garage door, right? And then we've got to look at Dave Compton back here again, and God forbid we don't want that. And so my point is, I think staff has done a terrific job in trying to take something that there was a disagreement on between a developer and a builder and really turn this into a product which is probably much more in line with our 2040 plan and things that we try to incorporate into that.
Well, and I think what it's done is we're all used to PUD packets that come with the shiny elevations of homes, and then when the homes are built, there's a disconnect between what the elevations look like and what's actually built. I think by going through this process and evolving the process, what we can better ensure is that the text in the amendment, which is really the driver behind all of this, more closely reflects the images that you see in the document. So I think we are progressively getting better at being able to predict and deliver the type of outcome that we want to see in these PUDs.
But I think everything we're saying is in the words. If you look at Section 3, it's specifically stated that vinyl siding is not going to be one of the materials. Section 4 will have decorative garages, and then Section 5 is changed so that those first 2 things that I mentioned are not in the mix of what you can get points for. So like Pete was saying, you get a better product at the end of the day because that can't be, say, 200 points. Those just have to be there. But it is a little bit different. I think you guys know it's going to be less like what's shown on the garage doors, more like this. So I always go back to the words.
Other questions?
I just appreciate the supplement here. It helps to really give a good picture, and I like what I see in the front. And I know this is not part of the discussion today, but I was just curious about the back elevation. Do you have we been shown what the back's going to look like? Because I like the front. I just didn't know if, what you have for the back. It looks, I'm hoping that it's just as nice, but I don't remember seeing it come through. Has it come through yet?
It hasn't, no.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm going to make a motion to approve on second reading, suspend the rules and approve on second reading. Ordinance number 122-115A.
Second.
Motion by Pete, second by Todd. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
122-115A.
Motion by Pete, do I have a second? Second by Todd. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Moving on to item 9, ordinance 12215B. Request to approve a text amendment to the Vermillion PUD ordinance. Second and third reading.
Good evening again. For the record, I'm Adam Zaklakowski with the Planning Department. This is a request for City Council to hold second and third reading on a text amendment to the Vermillion PUD regarding aggregate side yard setbacks in areas C and D, and it's affecting approximately 145 acres within a 338-acre planned development near Connecticut Avenue and Southeastern Parkway. The petitioner presented some information today. They would like staff to consider amending some of the architectural standards within the PUD to fit approximately 12 new models that Cal Atlantic Homes, formerly known as Ryland, has designed. In order to fit those new models into the PUD, some of the standards may have to be amended. So what they are asking you tonight would be to not approve or deny this ordinance, but rather send it back to the Plan Commission for consideration of the architectural standards. So we will do a thorough review of those and present our findings to the Plan Commission if that's the way that you decide to move tonight. With that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those. And Steve Harden from Faegre Baker Daniels is here as well. Thank you.
Any questions for Adam?
Have they spoken with the adjacent landowner on the buffering?
Yes, Ms. Coble, they did. There is an agreement via email. There's nothing solidified in the zoning commitments, but as discussed at the Plan Commission meeting, they did meet with Mr. Swift and agreed to place some additional landscaping on his property.
Thank you. Petitioner here tonight, or representative, want to come up and say a few words?
Well, just to be clear, John, the motion that you would entertain if you were to take this back to the Plan Commission would be to defer it to the Plan Commission for further review.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the City Council. For the record, my name is Steve Harden, a partner at the law firm Faegre Baker Daniels. Pleased to be representing Republic Development and Cal Atlantic Homes. And just to give a little bit of background, I'm not sure if I've had this ever happen before, but I think it's a good thing it happened Friday and not tomorrow. So we had been working on this project for some time, and the amendment had occurred originally back in 2013 to update the plans for the luxury collection that Cal Atlantic is planning to build. And I think most people are pretty excited about the homes. They'll be really quality, expensive homes in this community. What we did back then in 13 was we had some provisions for certain home styles, and if you were going to do those home styles, you had to have 4 out of 5 or 6 different bullet items. Since that time, if you give good architects and designers time, and 3 years is plenty of time, to continue to work on those elevations, when they gave to Cal Atlantic on Friday, just last Friday, a couple days ago, the updated elevations, they look terrific, but they don't necessarily comply with exactly those 4 or 5 bullet points. So what we wanted to do is to go back to the Plan Commission, work with staff, let them really look at these elevations. Maybe we need to expand the bullet points. Maybe we need to add some new home styles. Maybe we need to provide a mechanism to allow staff now and in the future to review updated plans as long as they're substantially similar in quality and character to what you see, or allow it to go to the PUD committee. So there's some standard issues, some policy issues, some how do we not clog your council agenda up with things that you don't want to be clogged up with, so it ties in line with exactly what we were just talking about. So our thought was, rather than have to go through, get this approved, and then file a whole nother amendment, let's just, if we could, if you'd be willing to defer it back to the Plan Commission, you don't have to make any decisions tonight. We'd go back there for their March 8th Plan Commission public hearing, working with staff in advance, and then be back here to the March 21st council meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Does that require a motion?
Do we have a motion?
Does.
Do we have a motion to defer back to Planning Commission? Motion by Pete. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by David. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to item 10 on our agenda, ordinance 021516, request to approve a tax amendment to the Marina Village Plan Unit Development.
Thank you. Again, for the record, Kevin Stotts, planner in the Department of Community Development. Marina Village is located on the south side of Fall Creek Road, on the west side of Geist Reservoir. As you can see here from the zoning map, the existing zoning is a PUD identified as Marina Village. It was actually approved under the city of Noblesville back in September of 2003. The city of Fishers has since taken over the planning and zoning jurisdiction for this area, and therefore the petitioner is making their request in front of the Fishers City Council tonight. The city of Noblesville also approved the preliminary development plan and the secondary plat for this community. So Marina Village will need to work through a separate process to modify those plats, and we will do that concurrently as we work through the next step in the Plan Commission process. So Marina Village is actually made up of 16 blocks, as shown here. 5 of those blocks have been developed with a duplex on them. The intent is, after they have been developed with the duplex, then they will be split into 2 lots, one for each of the single-family homes. The request before you tonight is that 7 of these blocks be developed into single-family homes. The remaining 3 blocks will be developed as outlined in the existing Marina Village PUD. The petitioner has also incorporated additional language and building elevation exhibits into their proposed PUD text amendment to establish the architectural standards which will apply to these 7 individual single-family homes. So in the petitioner's packet under Exhibit 1, they have provided elevations to reflect the single-family homes to be built on blocks B, C, D, F, and G. Exhibit 2 in your packet reflects the homes to be constructed on blocks O and P. And then the petitioner has also provided an example of the multi-family home, which is to be built on block H. So staff would encourage you to provide any feedback you have on those home elevations so we can work through those as we go through the Planning Commission process. So that's a very brief overview, but it is a somewhat simple request. They would like to, instead of developing 2 single-family homes per block, they would like to develop 1 single-family home per block. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gordon Byers so we can go over the details of the request.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. President, members of the City Council. My name is Gordon Byers. I'm here this evening representing Marina Limited Partnership. Many of you may know Marina Limited Partnership's been the primary developer of the northern part of Geist Reservoir, Canal Place, Cambridge, Bridgewater. They operate the boat marina. And this particular project went through Noblesville in 2003. It was the first Noblesville PUD that incorporated Noblesville's Architectural PUD Commission. And we basically downzoned this site. This site is adjacent to the Bella Vita restaurant and some commercial activities. We downzoned this site and put this project in with real detailed PUD commitments. And we thought we were real smart in 2003, so we nailed this down, sort of glued and hammered it and put it together. And now we're coming back to try to attempt to downzone it and change it. These were 3-story single-family homes and 2-story single-family homes. And we're primarily modifying the 3-story single-family homes. Now what's a little complex about this, these were single-family homes platted that had a common wall. You know, they are individual lots, individual homes owned by individuals with a common wall. So we're taking 14 of those, potential 14 of those, and turning them into 7. And it's been our experience that the 2-story single-family homes worked well. Those were on the water. The 3-story were off the water. So we went back to all the residents, and we've got the consent. I provided staff this document. We've got the consent of all the residents for these changes that I'm talking about here this evening. So from a big high aerial view, we're modifying the Noblesville PUD and all the zoning commitments we made. And instead of building 14 single-family homes, we're building 7. And in our opinion, these 7 homes have really good architecture, 4-sided architecture, rear, sides, fronts. Our architect looked at it. They scored on your criteria in your ordinance. They scored at the 13-point level, so they scored rather high. Here's this particular product's going to be built on all but 3 of the lots. It has a 3-car garage, 2 here, 1 to the side. Has components of brick, hardy plank, and cedar shakes, and it's a typical 1.5 story single-family home that we think is coming soon. Here's the other single-family home, another 3-car garage, same type of architectural components, has 4-sided architecture, and they fit on the existing plat. There's a companion to the Plan Commission. We have to vacate the plat because the plat mandated that these blocks or lots be split into two, and we're reversing that. We're keeping them as one. Now, picture's worth it. This is substantially similar to that product. The one-car garage is coming in here at a right angle. There's the two-car garage, and you can see they have sort of the wainscot brick, 360 on the home, hardy plank, and that gives you a flavor. This is a substantially similar home built by the same builder that we're going to use here. It's Wedgwood, based out of Carmel. They'll be building these homes. You've got a long agenda, and I'll stop right there, but we feel that this is a good project. It puts on these potential three-story homes, it puts in a story-and-a-half single-family home. It reduces the density by 50%. We think the feedback we got from the neighbors were, we're okay with this, we're fine with this, and they've signed a document that we're able to record that indicates that. They did, relevant questions would be that the homeowners' dues will go down a little bit. They're going to lose some revenue because they'll go from 14 to 7. And we've made some modifications in the declaration of restrictions that's going to pick up for that. These are private roads, no public streets. It's a community that has access to the lake. They have boat docks. And it's, again, in close proximity to the marina activities there, the Bella Vita and the other things at Geitz. But it's our sense that we're going to all this trouble because we think this makes more sense, even though we're sort of downzoning the overall project. And we have the consent of the individuals that live there, which was our main concern. So I'll stop right there and respond to questions. There's pretty detailed architecture. These homes are about 2,600 square feet, basically story-and-a-half. One of the plans has a basement on it. There'll be no basements here. The extra space will be put up, but they're all going to exceed the minimum square footages, which are 2,400 in this area. And there'll be nice single-family homes that we think will fit in and be high architecture. Again, they scored rather high on your chart based upon the building materials. So I'll stop right there, Mr. President. Long evening, and respond to questions versus pontificating. So.
Quite all right. Any question for the petitioner?
What's the approximate value of the homes that you expect?
Well, I think they're going to be close. I think they're in that $400,000 to $500,000 house and lot price range. I hate to always say price because I don't think they're set, but I have a sense of what the lot is. We think the total package will come into that $455 price range.
Other questions?
I think it's starting to come in at the right time because I know, Gordon, when you guys came through or wasn't here, but I've watched that project go. And obviously, some of the lots have been sold and some haven't, but I think it's actually happened probably in a good way, where you have some lots that have been sold and built upon, and then others are open. So this isn't going to be, well, you have a certain amount of homes here, and then your new homes are going to be kind of wedged in, and then maybe the other homes go back to that. Where I think that you can somewhat seamlessly work, as you described, to get the story-and-a-half next to 3 stories next to 2 stories, so it kind of, I think it'll blend in. And I think it probably works out well when it's single family versus, obviously, I mean, you've been working on it since 2003. Some of the, I'd call them condos, those 3 stories. But I think you'll be able to blend it. So I'll take a look at the architecture between now and when you guys come back, or I know you guys will look at it on the Plan Commission, but it looks like you've done a good job of trying to weave through what's existing so that it molds together. And the reason I point that out is if I had a condo there, I would want to make sure that when this project is built out, that there'd be enough of a product like mine that would hold my value, and at the same time, the single-family home you'd want to be able to buy, and know there'd be enough of those types of homes so that value would be, so it's almost like two types of values, and it would hold true on both sides, I think.
I agree. And we thought that's why this is the appropriate time to do it. And these are, they appear to be like a condo, but they're technically really just single-family homes with a common wall. And there are, I think, there are 4 3-stories. And we think the reason some of the 3 stories didn't happen, they were set up for elevators, and Here in the Midwest, that may not be a great selling point, so we're going to go down to 2-story, story and a half, and put stair systems in. As I get older, an elevator sounds better and better about every year, but we think the story and a half might make more sense for this location.
Gordon, thank you. Do you have a motion?
Just one.
Sure.
I think you stated, Gordon, because the restrictive covenants are changing, you have to have approval from all existing landowners, and you've got that?
Yes, sir.
So that, okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Good question.
Motion for first reading.
We've had first reading. Thank you all. Moving on to item 11 on the agenda, ordinance 021516A, request to approve a text amendment to the Southwest Quarter of 116th and Oleo Planning Development. Welcome back, Kevin.
Last one for tonight. So as you stated, the Flynn and Zinkin Holdings is requesting that council hold first reading and provide feedback on their text amendment to the existing PUD, which is known again as the Village at Geist. The PUD itself was approved in 2002 and establishes the development standard and land uses for two portions. The northern site, highlighted in red here, is the commercial element of the PUD. The southern portion is the residential, known as Water's Edge. The text amendment proposed tonight would only apply to the commercial product on the northern side. Here is the existing site today. We have Fifth Third Bank located here, Walgreens on the hard corner of 116th and Oleo, and then we have a strip center here. The first portion of the text amendment applies to drive-through windows. The current PUD states that no fast food or drive-in type restaurants are permitted. Sit-down or full-service restaurants are permitted with the ability to serve alcohol. So the first portion of the text amendment would allow any use in this, any C2 or C3 commercial uses to have a drive-through window. And just to clarify, a drive-through window would mean a menu board, a speaker box, and then the pickup window. They used the language coffee shop in their description because it is their intent to have a coffee shop on lot 2. So this lot here is intended to have a coffee shop, and the first portion of the text amendment would apply to that lot specifically. The second portion of the text amendment is for lot 7, outlined here. Currently, the PUD restricts the land uses in that 9,100 square foot building to the C1 commercial district land uses. The proposal would be to allow the C2 and C3 commercial district land uses on that lot. And I have provided those in the staff report. I'm not going to go over all those as they are lengthy, but I would encourage you to reference those. So that is an overview of the requested text amendment. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to petitioner to highlight any other requests that they have.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. President, members of the City Council. My name is Steve Zinkin. I am a partner in the petitioner, and we are seeking a text amendment not to allow, which currently prohibits any fast food restaurants with drive-through windows. Rather, we are specifically seeking a text amendment to allow a coffee shop with a drive-through window. And that's very important because as part of a contentious rezoning 15, 16 years ago, we agreed to specifically preclude any fast food restaurants with drive-through windows from being located at this intersection. Briefly, by way of background, we initially sought to annex and rezone the southwest corner for a Kroger-anchored shopping center. There was a very contentious rezone, especially from the neighbors from Country Lane Estates that were led by Chris Cook. And eventually, we rezoned the northwest corner for a Kroger-anchored shopping center. And then we worked with the folks at Country Lane Estates with regards to the southwest corner. As Kevin indicated, we did the residential rezone down by Geist Reservoir and the commercial zoning up at the corner. At the time, we didn't know this was simply a concept plan that was attached to the PUD zoning ordinance. As you can see, we did not put a gas station on the hard corner. We put a Walgreens drugstore down at the south end along 116th Street. We put in the Fifth Third Bank, and instead of having two buildings that fronted Oleo Road, we combined them into one where you have Pizza Hut at the far south end, you have a Mexican restaurant at the north end, and we built the C1 dental building there, and this was kind of always in limbo. Over the last 15 years, the area has built out quite well, and at the time, we agreed with, again, I keep referring to Chris because he was a very strong advocate on behalf of the neighborhood organization, did a wonderful job. We agreed to allow drive-through windows for banks, pharmacies. We also agreed to allow pickup windows for food vendors such as Donato's and Pizza Hut, but specifically not to have any fast food restaurants with drive-throughs. And to my recollection and Chris's, at the time, we had all these other issues. We never even focused on a coffee shop. It didn't come up. Since that time, we've been fortunate as residents have built homes within 2 or 3 miles of this intersection. It is built out. All four corners are very vibrant. We have no more space to lease on the northwest corner. On the southwest corner, we recently had a vacancy due to a death of a gentleman, but we've been full. And our problem is that as specifically as restaurants have approached us, we don't have space. We don't have any building to build a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot restaurant. So we are seeking, with your permission, two things. As Kevin indicated, we are seeking specifically on this lot to build a coffee shop with a drive-through window, which would have a menu board. And we've laid that out. It's no secret. It probably would be a Starbucks. And we've been requested by a number of neighbors, especially over the last year, why we haven't done that. In our opinion, it's a gray zone. We checked with staff. Staff said, you know, to be conservative, you need to seek a text amendment, and that's what we were doing. I will represent to you, we do have, the Cooks are in favor of it and are really positive with regards to that. So that's number one. So we're seeking a text amendment only for a coffee shop with a drive-through, not a fast food restaurant with drive-through. That would still specifically be excluded. Secondly, we're asking that this building be allowed to be a restaurant or other retail uses. So I refer to it as C2/C3 because quite honestly, when I look at C3 and I see restaurant uses, I can't figure out the difference between a C2 and a C3, so to be safe, I'm asking for both. I will also point out that it was our intent. We had a number of commitments. We had a fairly strong buffering along the western boundary line. We have an 8-foot tall mound with a 6-foot tall fence with very mature trees that we planted. We also committed this building that's not there today would continue to be a C1 use. This would be a C1 use. We have a nature preserve here. But as it's built out, this buffering with the C1 and the mounding is such that this really ought to be a C2 use or a restaurant. our other retail uses, and therefore that is the second component that we're seeking in terms of our text amendment. So at this point in time, I thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the petitioner? Yep, I have a couple questions. Number one, I haven't seen a Starbucks I haven't loved to stop that. That's number one. Okay. Number two, the biggest problem that I see with this is egress. Okay. And I'm down at that corner. You're in the heart of my district right there. And I understand because I go to the Starbucks at 69 and 116th Street every day.
Right.
And I go through that drive-through and I come back out and there's a traffic light there. There is not one traffic light in any one of the egress points of that intersection where you come out of. Your only exit point to where you're showing that kind of drive-through coming through would only be to the east. That would be it. Cannot go to the west there because you can't cross across the median. There's no light there, which is going to force people to U-turn, or it's going to force them to go up around the bank again where there's no traffic light. So I see then the next thing coming, we need a traffic light there. The other thing is at school hours, you have a massive amount of traffic there at school. There is nobody who's going to go westbound at that point in time. I'm happy to push it forward because I'm a Starbucks fan, let you go to Planning Commission and look at it. But in my mind, there's a lot of problems from an ingress-egress standpoint getting in and out of that shopping center at those hours with school coming in because there's just no way with any traffic signalization to let anybody out to get to the direction they want to go. Because most people at that point in the morning hours getting coffee are going westbound. They're heading back to the freeway. Some may take off down Oleo Road south and head that direction, but boy, oh boy, that thing's a mess in the morning just for school, let alone adding a Starbucks in there.
And John, that's a good point. We initially had shown a right-in, right-out only, okay, and subsequent to that, again, going back years ago with staff, they wanted this, which was that full curb cut. The reality of it is very difficult to go left. Early on, we tried to work to get a signal there to the west of the Fifth Third Bank. That was shot down for various reasons. I still think there's a commitment there in writing by Kroger that should the town want a stoplight, that they would approve it. But for whatever reasons beyond us, it wasn't allowed. Yes, you're correct that if you go westbound, that would be an issue. I know when I'm out there early in the morning, I've got to go over here to Oleo Road, go left to the light and make a left. That's realistically my only way out.
I have to second Pete's concerns. That was the first thing that I thought of. Going in there just to pick up pizza or whatever for the family and getting out even at night sometimes is just, it's not terribly difficult, but it's not the most convenient thing in the world. And so the traffic in the morning is my concern with regard to the school or in the afternoon, early afternoon. So I think we have to look at egress issues. I'm not opposed to a Starbucks by any means there.
Right.
It's just, I think we just need to have some thoughtful dialogue with it.
Frankly, if I could be very candid with you, I think you're going to have, we do nothing here. I think you're going to have a major problem once Kroger opens because you have the same problem coming out trying to go westbound. And again, I would respectfully submit that if the town possibly would consider a traffic signal there, it would alleviate a lot more than just on the southwest corner.
Right. Steve, how many seats will be inside and outside?
This one is a very good question, Mr. DeReamer. There's about 30 seats inside, and typically there's 16 seasonal seats outside.
16?
Again, that's what's been represented to me. You will see two different types. This is a freestanding Starbucks, and that has smaller number of seats than where you would see one on an end cap that let's say up at exit 10 or over here at 116th Street that would have a larger building footprint than what's here.
The maximum number of employees in the morning shift?
That I don't know. I can find out for you, but I don't know that.
Okay. The only reason I'd asked staff, and staff didn't have time to get back to me, the one I spent all my money, unfortunately, at the 210 exit, or my wife does, shall I say. But the problem up there, and I feel sorry for the liquor store and the Subway. You can't get a parking space there because they're all used for Starbucks. The liquor guy comes out and chases you out and he tries to just keep 2 spaces for his
Right.
liquor store.
Right.
The other problem is, what's our stacking ordinance? The one at Olivia, up there 210, it's stacked so far, it comes out in Olivia Way, 5 cars, 6 cars deep on Olivia Way, blocking the traffic on that road to get into the Starbucks drive-through.
Okay.
I likewise am not against this, but based on my personal experience of using that one up there, the city and you as the developer need to be careful, because if you don't have the stacking requirement, you're going to have a problem. And if you don't have enough seats, they're going to either take them away from the bank or the drugstore. And those are critical situations up there at 210.
We have, by way of background, we have a cross parking. We own all that land except for Fifth Third, and we have cross parking.
Okay.
So one of the benefits is we've got parking. Predominantly, we've got 26 parks for them, but we also have additional parking over here with Fifth Third. We can
Okay.
park here at Walgreens. We can also park back here,
Okay.
and that's existing today. That
Okay.
I feel good with. With regards to stacking, that's very legitimate. For what it's worth, that's their best Starbucks in Indiana.
The one up there, it is? I
And it's
can
all,
believe it.
and what they think, and their second best is down in southern Indiana, off of I-65. And what they really think is that they're capturing a large amount of folks coming off the interstate and then getting back on. Fortunately or unfortunately, we don't have that here. Our stacking here, the way we designed it, we've got, and Starbucks has looked at all this, that we've got 7 stacks going this way to where you see that sidewalk. If it comes further, it can back up another 5 or 6 over here.
Because you'll need a minimum of 9. Yeah, at least, yeah.
Yeah.
The other concern, see where the arrow is, where you would exit after you are handed your coffee?
Yeah, this way?
That's in the inbound lane, and I don't know if that would cause some problems, because you're going to have to move from that arrow to the right to get out.
Yeah, and we left that there currently, and the reason we did currently, that entrance, if you use it up there a lot, this entrance really isn't used.
Yeah, you're right, the one to the west.
Yeah,
yes.
this is the one that's used all the time. If you folks, that's where it should go. And the reason that we've done that this way is so that we've got folks, okay, that can circulate and frankly come over here.
Mm-hmm.
That's our intent.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice seeing you again, sir.
Yeah,
It's been
after all
20
these years.
Steve, a couple other things, and I did want to make mention, I reached out to Tim Mattingly, who lives to the west, fronting 116th Street. I also reached out to the Cooks, and they shared the concern that you mentioned, and that is that the coffee shop would be limited to that, so it's good to hear that you're doing that. The other request that they had, and I don't know if they talked to you about this, was that the retail building would, if it had a restaurant, would not have outdoor seating. That was a concern that was voiced, and so you can think about that.
Right.
The last question I would have is, and I think, the points about ingress, egress are very valid, and there'll probably be a lot more discussion about that at the Planning Commission, but if there is a signal, and I don't know, proximity to the intersection at Oleo, whether that makes sense or not, but is that something that you would be prepared to put in yourself if staff and even the Planning Commission would recommend it?
Our agreement that we worked with Kroger on the northwest corner in writing is that they would pay for it as part of their expansion.
Okay.
And that, I believe, is a written commitment not only to us, but separately to the city.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a couple points. I'm not the, I guess I'm the only one that doesn't drink coffee. I don't drink coffee at all. Can't. So I don't understand it, but people drive through and they do that. Now, the one thing I would point out is on the west side, just west of here, if you go to 116th and Allisonville, there's a small building that's a Starbucks. It's been there for about 10 years, very similar to what this one would be as far as the site and the parking and how that works. And it actually works there. Now, there is stacking. I mean, the people go through because all you people that drink, I don't understand it, but you do every morning. But it doesn't stack as bad as what you guys are talking about at the interstate. And I think possibly what happens is, or probably what happens is, all the people there on the west side are separated between two different options. So as you go towards the interstate, you'll have that. So it almost, to me, is more indicative of you need something for all of you coffee drinkers to go. So I think when you have something here, it will help alleviate, I think, a couple different sides. I think, Steve, you articulated how you do have the stacking. It can be internal to your site before you enter that. So that'd be one point. And I do like the way that you did Lot 2 specifically for this. I think that limits that, because you stated it exactly right. This room was filled 10 years ago or whatever, but and they were very interested to make sure that you didn't have specific fast food and things like that. And I think the things we're putting in place for the neighbors in that area have come true. I think it's worked out so that you are left with just these two lots. So I think that's one point. And then the other one, I might think about restricting some of the things, because you can go through that C2, C3 list, but at the same time, Lot 7's embedded, and you're going to make this very specific that it's just for Lot 7. So the only thing when I looked through real quick was you've got a dry cleaner, or we have a dry cleaner there, and a lot of times I like to put the verbiage that it's a pickup only, which most of the time it is, but if we can have that language in there, I think that helps. And then the last thing to help everybody, I've been here long enough that I remember he is correct that way back when there was a light that was contemplated, and it's very similar to the one in front of LA Fitness and Kroger at Cumberland, where it's kind of that midstream. It's very rarely, if you sit there, you're going to have to sit a while to make a left, but it's there for that protection. So it's set up not for the pass-through traffic on 116th, but it is there for people to come in and out. But at that location, it didn't have the traffic counts. So obviously, you fast forward in time to now, I think you could probably look at that and look at the traffic counts, and it might be justified. But I think, Scott, you know what I'm saying, where you've got a very limited amount of green time for people to want to come out, but it could be implemented. As you articulated that, Kroger could, obviously they'd want to have that probably too.
Yes.
So those are the three things as I kind of listened to the comments, but the main thing that I had was Lot 2 specifically for what it's going to be, and Lot 7, since that's embedded, you can't, you're not going to have a gas station or anything back there. It's really limited to probably a restaurant.
I think for the purposes of your concerns raised tonight, outside of the traditional kind of plan review, we'll have our engineering team and A&F do a real comprehensive understanding of the traffic flow, and if there's a recommendation for a light, or there seems to be a lot of more engineering infrastructure questions around this, and so by the time we come back to Plan Commission or back to the council, we'll have a kind of a traffic analysis of this to help aid you guys in your decision.
We should get the third graders, Fisher's Elementary. They already got it mapped out over here, I think. Fisher's Elementary, third graders. That's
Thank you.
You know, even if we weren't here tonight, I really appreciate that. It's needed. If you're out there, it's more difficult, frankly, between 4:30 and 6:30 than it is in the morning. So,
well, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks
Good
for your
luck to you.
concern. Thanks.
Moving on to item 12 on the agenda, ordinance 021516B, request to approve a rezone for 4 lots of Russell subdivision located on 118th Street.
And John, just for clarity, I worked with the buyer and the seller, so to speak, on this, so I will be recusing myself that this moves forward and comes back for a vote.
Okay, thank you, David.
Good evening. Again, for the record, Adam Zach Wachowski with the Planning Department. This is a request for council to hold first reading for the extra space storage PUD. This would involve a rezone from R2 to PUD-C and a new PUD district ordinance and concept plan. We're talking about 3.5 acres on the north side of 118th Street, just west of Oleo Road. The petitioner is Jim Adams of French Property Management, LLC, and he would like to develop a self-storage facility of about 98,000 square feet in size. It would include 650 units, and again, it'd be on the north side of 118th Street. The property today consists of 4 separate parcels with 4 separate owners. Each property contains a single-family residential home, and each owner consents to the rezone and is under contract to sell to Mr. Adams. The lots are part of a platted subdivision called Russell Subdivision. The entire subject property is within unincorporated Hamilton County, Fall Creek Township. An application for annexation is expected to be submitted. As you can see, to the south of the site is the town center at Geist. It's a neighborhood, commercial retail, and office development. It includes a Kroger grocery store, which of course will be demolished this year and replaced with a larger store built to the west in this area over here. That project also includes an animal hospital and an insurance agency. To the north of the site is Fall Creek Junior High School. As you can see here, athletic fields abut the property, and it's zoned R3. To the east of the property is the Fall Creek Vision Center over here. It's a neighborhood retail service establishment, zone PUDC. And to the west of the site is a vacant parcel with a field and some trees. A former single-family home was on the property. It was demolished. It's also zoned R2, and it's a part of Russell subdivision. Staff did inquire with the developer about the feasibility of bringing this parcel into the PUD, since it would be located between the future Lutheran church, which would be built is under construction over here in this area, and the proposed self-storage. However, Mr. Adams was unable to come to terms with the owner. For your information, the current comprehensive plan designation for this site is low-density, single-family residential, and that dates back to 2008. The draft designation for this site in the Fisher's 2040 comprehensive plan is Neighborhood Service Center. So again, you can see the R2 zoning, R3 to the north, and PUD to the south and to the east. Here's the concept plan that you see here. Note the PUD as proposed would only allow for all C2 uses and specifically a self-storage facility. There are a number of different development standards modifications that they would be proposing as part of this PUD. They deal with issues of setbacks, floor area ratio, landscape buffering, and parking. In terms of public comments, we haven't received any from the public at this time, but of course a formal public hearing will be conducted during the Plan Commission review, and the public will be notified in accordance with state law, and that would include a mailing, a newspaper advertisement, and a sign posting by staff. In terms of staff's thoughts and recommendation on the project at this point in time, is the current single-family homes that are there are well buffered and are on a dead-end street, and the current residential use of the area is appropriate. However, the residents do see an opportunity to maximize their property values by selling the property as commercial. And given the isolated nature of the property and lack of visibility of the property, we do believe that a self-storage facility is a viable use. So at this point, we have no objections to the use, but we'll carefully examine the proposed development standards in the PUD prior to the Plan Commission review. So for tonight, we simply ask that you hold the first reading, provide feedback, and send this item to the Plan Commission for review. Thank you.
Any questions for Adam?
Adam, the street will, as it sits there as a dead end, what is the city of Fishers, because normally you have a cul-de-sac or something. What are we going to do with that?
Yes, Mr. Dreamer, the current plan is the Lutheran church that is to the west over here. Let me go to this aerial. They're under construction right now. Of course, we've got the Kroger under construction here. Kroger did dedicate some additional right-of-way in this area, and the church would like to use 118th Street as a secondary access point in a second phase. So they'd have basically a driveway that would go back there. And then Kroger has access in this area right now where the arrow is. That's where it's planned. Although, and the reason that it was put in that area was to
avoid headlights shining onto residential homes over here. So if this were to go commercial as proposed, then we might consider moving that access point back over here again, which would hopefully open up some visibility to the business there.
John? I have no problem with the use. I think it's a very good use for the area. I think it's a transition area anyway. I did speak to Jim Adams, and I just wanted to note a couple of thoughts. And I don't know how much of this will be visible, but I mentioned that my concerns were what you see from Oleo Road. I think we are going to be tucked behind an existing building, so I'm not really sure how relevant it is, but I did ask him to look at the garage door, which I think will be fairly visible, and do what he could to make that more architecturally pleasing. I had first asked him to try and orient that, parallel or perpendicular to Oleo, parallel to 118th Street. He said that would be tough to do, but if he can do anything, he said he was going to look at that. The other thought that I have, and again, I'm not sure how visible this is, but the front or the rest of the elevation that faces Oleo, if there are just some faux windows or anything else that can be added. I know we were all very pleased with the project that was done on Allisonville Road and what that end product was. I think, trying to incorporate some of those elements into the design would go a long way. So again, from a use standpoint, I don't have a problem, but I think and he mentioned he appreciated that and seemed like he was going to try and consider some of those things.
Is the petitioner here tonight? They have anything they want to say? Good evening.
Good evening. Alex Beatty. Thank you for members of the council and president of the council for letting me be here. My name is Alex Beatty. I am from the law firm of Fager Baker Daniels, an attorney there. Don't really have anything additional to say. Adam really did a good job presenting the project, and I believe Jim has been in contact as well, so really appreciate your consideration today.
Thank you. Motion to have first reading?
Motion to have first reading.
We have first reading. Thank you.
John, items 13 and 14 were pulled from the petitioner, requested to be pulled from the petitioner this morning. Those are both the action items covering the Ricker's convenience store.
Okay.
So I believe they do. I believe there were some things that they wanted to work with staff on before they came to council. Yep.
Very good. We'll move on to item 15, our last item on the agenda, ordinance 021516E, request to amend the city reserves and liquidity policy to include sewer-related matters. Lisa, sorry to make you wait all evening.
No. Lisa Bradford, I'm Deputy Controller of Operations for the City of Fishers, and I'm just here to present the amendment. And basically, the council previously approved the City of Fishers reserves and liquidity policy. However, that did not include a portion for wastewater. And so that's simply what this new policy does, is add an addendum to discuss the wastewater. We're currently going under a review by Standard & Poor's for the utility. This is an item that they require to help us with our rating. So we want to add this to our policy to help our rating and keep our good credit rating and get low interest rates.
Okay. Any questions for Lisa?
I am shocked that the crowd didn't hang out for that.
No. Do we have to do a public hearing?
We do not have to have a public hearing.
Very
no.
good. Thank you. Motion by Pete, second by Todd. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion approved.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Pete. Do I have a second? Second by Todd. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Any other items, unfinished or new business? No motion to adjourn. I have a motion by Pete, second by Todd. All those in favor, please say aye. We are adjourned. Have a great week.